This is absolutely the best time to remake classics like this. You can capture a new audience, and you can recapture old fans who wonder what next-gen tech can do for a game like this.
What's up, everybody? So, Remedy's Alan Wake is due out this month, and gamers who've spent some time with it have said things like this.
And yeah, if the final product is as good as what I experienced here, I think Alan Wake is going to blow people away.
A ringing endorsement, if I ever heard one, and I for sure will be picking this title up. For one, it's reasonably priced. It's $60 for a 20+ hour game, and I need something to keep my mind off of my backlog. But today, I want to talk about a game that put Remedy on the map. A game that is an absolute masterclass in gritty, neo-noir action-adventure. I am, of course, talking about Max Payne, and the reboot is coming.
I could hear Punchinello on the phone begging for help. He should have been saying his goodbyes.
But with the comments from Sam Lake, we might have it in our hands sooner rather than later, which we'll get to later on in the video. But before we do, let's take a quick look at some interesting stories that came out this week. Let's get into Casual Bites. And if you want to skip this section, I'll leave a timestamp here, and there'll be one in the timeline.
I did it! We're saved! Wrong foot. Mother.
First up, if you do any kind of editing, you know that it's better to do it without headphones, because how it's transferred to the headphones, it gives you a false sense of what you're hearing. However, I bet you'll never expect to see the police show up at your house, but that's exactly what happened with Steve Foran while he was editing footage from Saw 10. His neighbors called the cops because they thought people were being tortured at his home, and this is how that exchange went. Actually, I'm just working on a movie. You can come in if you want. The cops started laughing. They said, "We want to, but you know, you're all right." That's where the article ends, but I'm not gonna lie. I do hope they took a quick peek inside just to make sure, because it'd be kind of weird if they didn't.
What are you doing in my swamp?
This was an interesting story. Apparently at Verity Estates in Scotland built a replica of Shrek's swamp home. This is your chance to visit Scotland, and while you're there, you can book a 2-night stay at Shrek's place for $0 apparently. In a statement that reads like it's supposed to be written by Donkey, it says, "I'm swamp sitting while Shrek's away this Halloween, and I'm absolutely delighted to invite you in for a fairy tale stay. Oh, and never mind the beware signs. They're probably for decoration." According to the article, they'll start taking guests on the 27th of this month, but bookings will start on the 13th. I never doubted Todd McFarlane for a second. If you were waiting for the Spawn reboot, you can rest now, because I'm fairly certain this movie won't see the light of day.
You blew it! You blew it!
The Spawn reboot is either out of the writing phase or really close to it. And we actually have a release year. Jason Blum of Blumhouse Productions has said 2025, and he stands by that. After Jamie Foxx's health emergency, it was unclear if Todd would stick with him as the leading man, but since he's come out and said Jamie Foxx is still on board. This is by far the biggest update yet, and we've really been kept in the loop recently, so I'll be keeping an eye on this as it develops.
Because if you tell a wish, it won't come true.
Remember when Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey was announced and everyone thought it was a joke, but it wasn't, and it was terrible? Not that I saw it, but if there's any movie that I can say that about, it's this one. Following in those footsteps, we have Cinderella's Revenge. And yes, apparently that is the real title. Starring Lauren Stark, and I really hope that I'm pronouncing that right, and Natasha Henstridge. And the director/writer on the project, Adam Edwards, came out and had this to say about it. "Cinderella is the most famous fairy tale in the world. We were able to develop a great horror script that is also a female empowerment story with global appeal."
Whatever you say, pal.
There's no release date yet, but I was just wondering, what is up with these horror spins on these stories? I mean, Blood and Honey did make $5 million on a $100,000 budget, so I'm thinking maybe that has something to do with it. Let me know what you think in the comments. We talked about the Attack on Titan anime last week, but now we have a new chapter being added to the manga. I'm not gonna lie, once Attack on Titan wraps up, I think I'm done with this series. Season 1 and 2 were by far my favorite of the series. Season 3 was pretty good, and 4 has been amazing. I just find it hard to keep the hype meter full when it's taken this long to get to the finish. But for all of you clamoring for more AOT, Hajime Isayama has you covered. Switching gears into gaming, after one of the most, if not the most, disastrous launch ever, CD Projekt Red has recently announced that they sold 25 million copies. And I think this is really great news, seeing as the game had really great bones. It was just bogged down by a really buggy launch, especially on last-gen consoles, which they were less than honest about. So much so that they settled a $1.85 million lawsuit with investors that claimed that they were misled about the state of the game on PS4 and Xbox One. However, they've been hard at work reworking and patching, and with their new DLC, Phantom Liberty, some are still jaded, but many have forgiven CDPR. Which one are you? Leave it in the comments. The next one, we've got several PlayStation stories, some good news, some not so good news.
I have good news and I news.
Kicking it off with the good news, the PlayStation Portal is sold out in all major retailers in Japan.
They're all gone.
And I recently checked this myself, it's sold out in America on Amazon. As far as Japan, there are a few reasons this could be. One, scalpers are still a big issue over there.
It's mine, you understand? Mine, all mine.
And two, handhelds seem to be more popular in Japan. Either way, this is really good news for SIE, but hopefully they hold off on the celebratory champagne because in America, it's still a mixed bag, even knowing that it's sold out on Amazon. And just to refresh, this is not a real handheld, requiring you to be entrenched in the PlayStation ecosystem and have an internet connection. It'll be releasing mid-November, so we won't have to wait long to see what those numbers are going to be like. So that was the good news. Next up, we talked about the ransomware attack on Sony last week. Turns out a breach had occurred, but it happened earlier this year. Whether or not it's the same perpetrators that we heard about recently is yet to be mentioned. Whoever it was reported that they were only able to access about 6,000 files.
It's pretty small. So small.
Given Sony's size, that's probably not a lot. Not a lot more is known about this one, so we'll keep you updated as more information comes out. And lastly, apparently during Jim Ryan's tenure, pivoting to a live service was and isn't as seamless as he would have liked us to believe. With a huge emphasis on a cinematic single-player experience, studios tasked with live service projects have either overhauled them or canceled them outright. Live service games are a dream for a lot of these studios because they generate tons of money. They are packed to the brim with monetizable opportunities. So I guess it's understandable why they would want in on a slice of that pie.
Apple.
Fine.
No cherry.
Perfect.
Not pumpkin.
Okay.
That's a vegetable.
Point is,
However, I have another proposition.
How about no?
Now, moving on to our main story, Sam Lake, the creative director at Remedy, talks the Max Payne remake. Apparently, they're merging the first and second game together, so it's going to be huge. And here's what Mr. Lake had to say about it. It's a significant undertaking in the sense that even if they are old games, just thinking about bringing them up to modern standards and combining them into one, you can see that it's a big project. So you might be thinking with a game this massive that we might have to wait for it for 5 years, but as the article continues, it predicts that we'll have something to chew on in the next couple years. This is absolutely the best time to remake classics like this. You can capture a new audience and you can recapture old fans who wonder what next-gen tech can do for a game like this. Anyway, leave your thoughts about this and all the other topics that we covered in the comments. Also, I would love to know your top 3 dream remakes of all time. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you Monday, but until then, keep it casual. Peace.